Hey guys, welcome back for another Jedi Journal entry. Today we will look at the reason why the dark side is not in fact more powerful. We all remember in Empire Strikes Back how Luke asks Yoda very directly if the dark side is stronger. Yoda abruptly replies no, but lets on that it is easier and more seductive. He then goes on to dodge Luke's questions and tells him to clear his mind and to absorb the lessons he's been taught that day. I remember seeing this as a kid and thinking to myself, but the dark side has force lightning. How can the dark side not be stronger? Well, to understand this, we have to look back to what Yoda was getting at when he answered the question. He said that it is easier and more seductive, meaning you can gain more power at a faster rate without as much work. It's essentially a shortcut to utilizing your power, and as such, it's very tempting to want to use. Using the dark side grants you full use of your connection to the Force. You can tap into your full power instantly without having to go through the training or steps to get there. And we saw this in Return of the Jedi, right? We saw this with Luke when he was on the second Death Star battling Vader. If you watch that fight, Luke is pummeling Vader at the beginning of the fight and then again at the end, right before he cuts his hand off. Luke is basically overwhelming Vader by tapping into the dark side, tapping into his aggression, and just pummeling this poor crippled man. But then when he calms back down, Luke goes back on the defensive, right? He centers himself. He realizes, no, I'm not trying to use the dark side. I don't want to kill my father. I'm going to fight defensively, and it's only at that point that Vader's able to push him back, and Luke is forced to retreat and jump away to safety. But if it grants you your full power, and the Jedi way gets you to your full power too, just at a slower rate, then wouldn't they be equal? If I get to level 10 instantly, or to level 10 through training, I still end up at level 10, so why does Yoda so confidently say that the dark side is not stronger? And it could be simply because when you align yourself as a servant of the Force and not as a self-serving agent, that you align yourself with Providence. But another answer, and the one we will explore today, is self-mastery. The dark side offers power up front in exchange for self-control. Those who are not enlightened and have self-mastery are more powerful than those who are not. If you work your way up to being powerful, you will have had to struggle to get there. You will have learned the discipline that comes with gaining mastery of anything. You will gain skill and finesse in your technique as well. Similar to making a lot of money, if you made $1 million through hard work and knowing how to invest your money, you are far more financially powerful than someone who was handed $1 million and didn't have to work for it. You're much more competent with it, and that difference in skill and knowledge will be very apparent between the two people. Tapping into the dark side hands them their power. They don't have to go through the training to get it. They did not gain the mental and physical discipline it took to learn to focus one's abilities. Acting impulsively from one's emotion without the restraint of reason is how lots of people wind up in situations they would prefer to not be found in. But do other Jedi ever feel emotions like fear or anger? Yeah, of course they do. After all, they're living beings. But the distinction is that a Jedi never acts from fear or anger. A Jedi acts when he is calm, at peace, passive, as acting from an agitated mind would only cloud one's judgment. The basic premise is that while the Jedi do in fact have feelings, they take steps to make sure that they are in control of themselves. A true Jedi has faced their inner darkness and integrated it into their own being, bringing it to heel so that they control it, and it does not control them. This was one of the ways that the prequel Jedi Order had gone astray. They were so concerned with fighting the dark side that they would repress their natural feelings, denying them. But one cannot deny one's inner darkness or emotions because they're always going to pop back up. Your own darker tendencies and thoughts rise up involuntarily throughout the day, and I would hope that you have the conviction and discipline to keep it under control. It's not that you should repress those darker tendencies because everything has its purpose, but you should acknowledge it and integrate it with your being so that you are the one in control. It's like the story of the samurai who bested his opponent in battle, but right before he was about to deliver the final blow, stopped himself when his enemies spit on him. He stopped because he knew in that moment that if he did kill him, it would not have been out of his duty, but out of his anger for such a provocation. He remained honest and balanced and chose not to act out of anger. Jedi gain strength of moral character and are resolute. They are focused, deeply committed, and possess the most serious minds. They follow the will of the Force and are not tempted by their passions. Dark side users open themselves up and tap into their passions, their pain, their anger to gain power. The Sith claim that this makes them free, while the Jedi are stuck as slaves to their order. This is not true, however. The Sith are just as much slaves as the Jedi. They're slaves to their hunger for power to ever increasing. They're slaves to the darkness with no ability to restrain themselves as a disciplined mind would be able to. But the Jedi are also slaves to the will of the Force, and as we saw in the prequel trilogy, slaves to the tenets of the Jedi Order. Jedi must forego much of their individual natures to become vessels for the Force and are thus stuck in that life. They are like the philosopher Augustine in that they avoid their desire to prevent them from becoming inordinate, but it's through that life of discipline that they gain mastery of both mind and ability. The skilled Jedi can defeat a Darksider because they have self-mastery. They do not let their emotions unbalance them. They keep their center in tough situations, while a Darkside user, in an attempt to draw on more power, may get frustrated and unfocused. We saw this with the battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith. Granted, there were many reasons other than being a Jedi and Anakin using the dark side for why Obi-Wan was able to win that fight. It was a multi-layered, multi-factor reason why he lost that fight, but no one can deny that of the two of them, Obi-Wan had far more discipline than Anakin. Anakin was no slouch himself. I'd argue by the beginning of Revenge of the Sith that Anakin was stronger than a majority of the Jedi Council. Obi-Wan's real advantage in that fight seemed to be that he acknowledged Anakin was more powerful and thus chose to fight smart, relying on his defensive lightsaber style, which is his specialty, and his intimate knowledge of Anakin's habits so he could stay in the game. On that same point, these two were master and apprentice, and they fought side by side all throughout the Clone Wars and in the 10 years before that. They'd sparred thousands of hours together and were intimately aware of the other's fighting style. Obi-Wan's years of one-on-one experience with Anakin, in addition to being the master of Form 3, is what allowed Obi-Wan to last long enough to secure a victory. Other Jedi didn't have that intimate connection with Anakin to inform their choices in battle, and so they fell much faster. If Obi-Wan didn't have the history with Anakin that he did, he would have fallen much the same as the other Jedi Anakin had already killed. Anakin had killed innumerable Jedi in the temple single-handedly, and by the beginning of his duel with Obi-Wan, it could be argued was even stronger than the Emperor. After all, he said so to Padme quite confidently, and I don't think he was exaggerating given all the things he'd accomplished up to that point, being the chosen one and all. Whether or not he could have actually beaten Palpatine at that point in time is another matter entirely. I mean, he certainly didn't have the experience or control that someone like Sidious did. But if Anakin was stronger than the Emperor, then why did Yoda say Obi-Wan wouldn't be able to face Sidious? Because, like I said earlier, Obi-Wan had a history with Anakin, and intimate knowledge of his fighting style. Obi-Wan doesn't have that with Sidious, and so he would be caught by surprise like the other masters that fought him earlier. Their fight looks more choreographed than others, Anakin and Obi-Wan's, because I imagine a lot of their fight is just reflexive at that point, being that they've fought against and beside each other so many times. Without that history, Obi-Wan would have fallen, just as he would have against the Emperor. But as we all know, Anakin let his emotions get the better of him at the end of a long duel, and he lost. TLDR, the dark side offers power up front in exchange for self-control. Those who are enlightened and have self-mastery are more powerful than those who are not. So there you have my thoughts on why the dark side is not stronger. It comes down to mastery of oneself and one's abilities, not necessarily an absolute statement about power within the Force. Well, this concludes my thoughts on why the dark side is not stronger. If you enjoyed what I had to say, click the like button down below, subscribe for more of my content, which will be coming soon. If you want to receive notifications of when that will be, hit the little bell icon down below as well so you won't miss the next one. Thanks for sticking around, and I'll see you all next time. May the Force be with you.